Hi and welcome to today's vlog. Now, two things you may have noticed if you're very observant. First of all, haircut. Yes, I've had a haircut. I feel much better. It's much easier to handle, isn't it, when it's very short? And you may think, has he been to the hairdressers? No, I have relied on my long time haircutter, my lovely wife Sue, who is very kind and has for many years cut my hair. So I've saved lots of dosh over the years. So I feel much better today. And the second thing you may have noticed is my t-shirt. It's one that I got in Lanzarote some years ago, and all being well, in September we're due to have a holiday in Lanzarote with my sister Jenny and her husband David, and we just don't know for definite whether that's on. The flights have been booked, the place we're staying has been booked, but who knows what's going to happen between now and September. We live in hope. I've been, as you probably know if you've been listening to these vlogs, we're in the process of getting ready to move. In just a few weeks' time we'll be leaving Leicester, which will be sad in many ways, but moving back to Doncaster from whence we came as I retire. And as part of that process we've been doing a lot of sorting out. And it's interesting what you do when you start sorting out. And I want to show you something that I've come across, which is not really, we're not really in the season for this, but it will no doubt come in handy later in the year. Let me show you it. It's a very big Santa sack, and it says, "Dear Santa, I have been very, very, very good." And the tale that most of us were told when we were children was that if you're a good boy or a good girl, then Santa will, or Father Christmas will come and will bring your Christmas presents. But if you're naughty, he may not come. And often that was a big incentive to do our best, to struggle to try and be good for a little while until Father Christmas arrived. And the presents were on the end of the bed or under the Christmas tree, wherever they may be. So that's a very big sack, and it's ideal for putting out if you want lots of presents or a particularly big present. Dear Santa, I have been very, very, very good. And the hope, of course, with that message is that Santa will say, well, that young boy or that young girl has been very, very, very good, so I'll give them an extra special present. Now, the problem is that many people view God a bit like that. That God looks down upon us and he sees our behaviour and he weighs up the good things that we've done against the bad things. Indeed, there is that kind of belief that when we die and we go to the pearly gates, and St. Peter's standing there, so the stories say, there will be a totting up. I used to be an accountant, and you have the debits on the one side and the credits on the other side, and you kind of balance them out. The balance sheet at the end of the year shows you the balance between what's gone out and what's come in. And if more's come in than's gone out, then you're in a better place. If more's gone out than come in, like the government massively borrowing at the moment, it's not all that good for the future. So when we get to the pearly gates, so some people think, St. Peter opens his ledger and he looks on the one hand at all the things that we've done which we shouldn't have done, the things we've said that have hurt people and all the bad stuff. On the other hand is the credit, things in credit where we've helped somebody, we've been kind, we've said an encouraging thing to someone. And if the credits are greater than the debits, then that's okay, we'll be in. But if the debits outweigh the credits, then we might well be in trouble. That's the kind of thought process, maybe it's even unconscious, that some people have. That somehow we've got to try and earn God's love and acceptance. If we're good enough, if we normally, lots of the school pupils will be taking exams around this time. But of course, most of the exams have been cancelled. But if you have a pass mark of 50%, doesn't matter whether you get 49 or 1, it's still a fail. But if you get 51, you've passed. Or 99, you're still passed. And there is that sense that we need to earn our way into God's good books. We need to do what we can to try and earn God's love. And of course, the message of the Bible is that there is nothing we can do to earn God's love. Nothing we can do to make God love us any more or love us any less. There is this thing called grace that the Bible speaks about, particularly in the New Testament. Amazing grace, wrote John Newton in his famous hymn. And I want to read to you a couple of verses from St. Paul's letter to the church at Ephesus. He said, "It is by grace that you have been saved through faith. This is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast." It's not your own doing. Salvation, that place of being reconciled to God, of receiving forgiveness, is a gift of grace through Jesus Christ. When we put our trust in Jesus, when we accept his sacrifice on our behalf, we receive that gift of God, that gift of forgiveness. Not because we deserve it, but because we are recipients of that amazing grace of God. Now, I remember when our first grandchild, Max, was born, and indeed with the subsequent grandchildren, but particularly maybe the first one is like your first child, is the feeling that you have maybe is overwhelming. And I remember holding Max, our grandchild, and other grandchildren in my arms when I first met them, soon after they'd been born, and I had such a feeling of love for my grandchildren. Now, what was that based on? It wasn't because they'd ever done anything for me. They'd never made me a cup of tea. They'd never sent me a birthday card. They'd never got my slippers out when I came home, anything like that. They'd never done anything at all for me. And yet my love for them was there. It was undoubted. It was surprising in some ways. My love was not dependent on what they'd done for me. And God's love for us is not dependent on what we do for him. God loves us and has loved us from the foundation of all creation. That's what the Bible says. So don't think that you need to put out a sack for God saying, "Dear God, I have been very, very, very good." Of course, God knows all about us. He knows us better than even we know ourselves. He knows the things we struggle with, the wrong decisions we make, the times when we deliberately disobey him. And yet that offer of gracious forgiveness is always coming to us. And through Christ, we are forgiven. It truly is amazing, this thing called grace. What God gives us that we don't deserve, because God loves to give. So God bless you. Hope you have a great day.